just burn it all to the ground.
Oh, like the match. Hello, World Wide Web. I'm Dr. Shadow, the internet personality of the best hair, and I finally sat down to watch Halloween Ends. And, boy howdy. Well, there have been a lot of opinions flying around about it, and I'm sure you've heard it from plenty of people before me. Some are saying that this is kind of like Halloween 3 Season of the Witch kind of situation, where later on people are going to look back on it fondly, and right now everyone is saying, ugh, but I personally kind of disagree with that for a couple of reasons. Now, I should mention, number one, this is a reaction review video, so I'm not going to be covering it exactly the same as I do on a normal review. This is an off-the-cuff, unscripted, first impressions kind of deal, and I will be doing a full review for this movie sometime later when it's available on Blu-ray and get it in 4K. But for now, I'm just gonna give a quick rundown. The first half of this video I'm gonna try to be spoiler-free, and the second half I'm gonna dig into as many spoilers as I like. But with that out of the way, Halloween Ends. Some are saying that this is actually pretty good, and some are saying that it's absolutely abhorrent, and I fall into the category of it's not really the worst thing I've ever seen, but it lacks a cohesive message is one of its biggest kind of issues I have with it, as it can be its own story, it can do its own thing, indeed it does. But there are so many things where characters are introduced and they go back and forth on things. There's another thing that happens, like I guess this is the theme of the trilogy, is again, it deconstructs. Which, I mean, the Halloween 2018 deconstructed the entire series, said, okay, none of that happened except for the first one, and now we're starting a new storyline, a new timeline from there. First one happened, and now here's this one. It's kind of like we did in H2O, except now we're doing it again with Halloween 2018. But then Halloween Kills came around and was like, oh, you know, all that stuff we established was so important, that connection between Laurie and Michael? Well, actually, that doesn't matter, because that was just a bunch of hooey, just a bunch of hogwash. Let's just get in here, we just deconstruct that, and Michael's going around killing people. And so this time, Laurie just kind of... This is minor spoilery, but it's right at the beginning of the movie, so this is the first deconstruction. Laurie just kind of, like, they were established in Halloween 2018 that they spent 40 years preparing for Michael. And in Halloween Kills, Laurie is still there like, I'm gonna get him, and they're telling her, like, no, you're not actually that important. And then it ends with her like, I'm coming for you, Michael. Well, evidently she forgot that, because right here she's like, yeah, you know, I mean, this whole Michael thing seemed important for a while, but I don't want to live that life. I'm just going to get a nice suburban home in Haddonfield with no security at all, like even from a general burglar. Screw it, if someone's going to rob me, who am I to say that their life is worth more than my belongings? Let's just let bygones be bygones. I'm just going to make some wholesome pumpkin pie, a tradition for Halloween. Somewhere, I guess in Haddonfield. This very, very stark shift. She's like an entirely new character, which is kind of a thing, where a lot of the things that happen in this, you may as well just have kind of new characters doing it. It's its own little story. Again, we have our own self-contained story that doesn't need to be in a trilogy because it doesn't take advantage of that at all. If anything, the fact that all these things deconstruct the previous stories kind of makes it so it's less valuable as a trilogy. This is like episodes of a TV show. Like back in the 90s when each episode was its own self-contained story, except they swear up and down that it's actually building to something, and each new episode deconstructs the last one for an excuse to have its own little episode. You could play them in any order, and it doesn't really matter. And there are a couple of things that happen here and there that do matter, but you get what I'm saying. Things, generally, their overarching story just doesn't really matter. It doesn't. That's what happens when you deconstruct everything. And I look forward to 2028, when at the 50-year anniversary of Halloween, they say, hey, guess what? Halloween Ends isn't the last entry in the series. We're going to bring you a new Halloween. This one's a sequel to the first that ignores all the rest of the entire series. Can't wait for that one. Can't wait indeed. The big thing, I guess this is minorly spoilery as well, but I'm trying not to. But the big thing, like, People say that Halloween Ends, I've seen this said, that it is kind of like the Last Jedi of the Halloween franchise. Now, I can't speak on that because I never watched The Last Jedi. But I can say that the story and the general presentation, the way it deals with its characters, reminds me of something in between Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, and The Last of Us Part 2. That's kind of where I sit on this one. And that's not in a good way, really, because people are right that there's not that much Michael in this one. And people point out, like, the total runtime is actually slightly, for the amount of Michael on the screen here, is actually slightly longer than in the original. But, and this is a pretty big but, Michael doesn't even show up in this one until, like, the 30 or 40 minute mark. It's a while. And then it's just like for a couple of seconds. And then we kind of move on, and like, what did that mean? I'm like, it means this might be a Halloween movie if we can actually bring him back. If Halloween Kills was about how Laurie Strode isn't that important, Halloween Ends is how Michael Myers really isn't that important. Even though Michael Myers is still important, but he's not important. And it's just this back and forth of just, And yeah, I get this, like, okay, well, evil can take any form. And it's like, yes, but Michael is still kind of important in your Halloween franchise. That's the lesson we learned with Season of the Witch, was that if you don't have Michael in it, people aren't very happy. And Michael's technically in this, but not really. Like, he's not the main focus, except when he is. And that's another thing, the lack of a cohesive message. The lack of a cohesive, like... the whole time I'm watching it, I'm trying to figure, like, okay, what's the movie trying to tell me here? What's the thing it's trying to posit? What's it putting forward? And I kept coming up with things that also kind of went against earlier scenes. And a good amount of the runtime, I feel like, was kind of wasted. I mean, it was cinematic, like, nice slow shots and, like, building a feeling and such, but I was not feeling invested because so many of the scenes just seemed to contradict things previously, and then I was figuring, like, if I did pay attention to this more, then later on it's just going to have something else pop up that's going to go against that, and it kind of did. So I'm just left wondering who was responsible for the three movies, the scripts and such. They're just vastly different, going from one to the other to the other to the other. They just don't keep a single cohesive story going through it. You have a trilogy here, a new modern trilogy done within a couple of years of each other, and each movie is just so different. And they got the same actors playing the same characters, but it's still just, like, you got characters coming up that seem like that's important-ish, and it's presenting a concept, a topic to the audience to follow, and it leads, like, nowhere. I'm having a hard time trying to describe exactly what it is without getting into the spoiler aspects of it, because there is a lot to spoil about this. So I guess I'm going to just jump into the spoilers now, because and in terms of a number rating, I don't know if I should do that for the reaction reviews, because usually whenever I'm doing a review, I dig through things scene by scene. I comb through it enough, I do a lot of research, and then I feel a lot better about the number. Whereas with the reaction reviews, a lot of times I'm like, okay, I kind of rate it a bit high, but that's because I like watching movies, excuse me. And there were parts I enjoyed about this, but there was just so much, like, what in the heck? Let's get started on the spoilers. One of the best ways to show exactly how the movie's opening left me like, what the heck? And I have to say, after watching the movie's opening, very much was how to start this movie. Because you got our new main guy, Corey. And he's there, he's a babysitter, and he's there gonna be watching this kid, and it's like, yeah, no problem, everything's okay. He's well groomed, he's got his nice clothes, he used to mow their lawn, and he mention like a little bit of, like, they were like, oh, well, maybe he's better at babysitting than landscaping, but he also mentioned a little bit of knowledge about botany that would help them in their garden, so it's not that he was a bad gardener. They just are joking with each other, and he's gonna be watching their kid, and it's great, it's Halloween night, and everything's fine, but oh, they're worried because that Michael Myers came out, and the kid is really into the Michael thing, and and then there's this little back and forth kind of thing. Oh, what's going on? The kid's gone. He's worried. What's this? What's that? The knife was taken. He finds the knife on the stairs. He follows up to the attic, and the door slams shut, and the kid's on the other side laughing at him. He's there, and he's trying to get out of the attic, and his first idea of what to do about this whole situation, after trying to get it through, he's trying to get the kid to open a door for him, because evidently, I don't know, he might be claustrophobic for this one scene. He's freaking out a lot about being locked in a dark attic, especially after finding out that the kid's okay. He's freaking out a lot, and so he starts screaming that he's going to kill the kid, as you do, and he kicks the door open, which, oops-a-doodle, that just so happens to whack the kid in the face, who just so happened to be on the highest floor, which just so happened to have the railing that just so happened to go all the way down to the first floor of this 4-story building, which just so happened to be right when the parents were showing up, who just so happened to saw their kid get splatted right in front of them after being in earshot to hear the guy talking about how he was going to kill him. So obviously, this is a bad look. That's a bad look. And in the meantime, I'm looking at it like, and where's Michael? And then it kicks in the Halloween theme there. And I'm like, okay, that was that. But that is the perfect opening for this movie, because it's about Corey. It is about Corey, who then we skip to some years later, and we get the little backstory, like, in case you missed it, this is the Halloween franchise, and it's about Michael Myers. Now, moving on, this is Laurie Strode. She's actually pretty cool with everything now, and is opening her heart and her door to everyone. Also, is Corey's doing bad. Like, he got convicted of manslaughter, yet for some reason, like, that didn't actually, like, incur a sentence or anything. Like, I don't think they ever got into exactly how that worked, but he's walking around and just, threw a kid to his death, and everyone thinks he did it intentionally, so, or maybe even accidentally, it's manslaughter, but still, it's just no problem. He just having a walksies. It's fine, and he's got like this group of seniors that have honed in on him. They introduce themselves as being the bad guys because they are in a slasher movie, and they're like, hey, we're underage and would really like for you to buy us some alcohol. And he's there like, I can't do that. And then the team's leader, Evil Ludwig, is there like, oh, I know you. You're the one that killed the kid. Let's beat the crap out of this guy. And they just decide, assault. It's fun. It's great. Everyone should do it. But Laurie sees it, and she's like, no, you leave them alone. And she helps him slash their tires, which is like, okay, Laurie, that's kind of a back and forth there. But, whatevs. But she's like, this is a nice kid here who I already know. He's, like, everyone in town knows he's the one who killed that kid on Halloween the other couple of years ago. But I'm going to introduce him to my daughter, because she's also happens to be, little handy-dandy noise, so hey, this will work out very well. She can help stitch him up, and he can, get in good graces with her. Let's just set them up together. Why not? He's killed kids, she's helped save them. It's opposites attract. And so, that's kind of how that's going, and she's there, but she also already has a cop boyfriend at this time, I think. I don't know. She acts as if that he is her boyfriend, even if she acts like she really doesn't like it. But the only scenes we have of cop boyfriend are the introduction of him that is like, yeah, he's kind of like there, and I guess she doesn't like him. And then later, after she starts going out with Corey and seeing him and such, which I guess she never bothered to call the guy up and mention, by the way, oh yeah, they did say that she just wasn't answering his phone and just was canceling plans and stuff and wasn't gonna, so she just like, oh, screw it, I'm just not gonna hang around with you anymore, and just hope that he gets the picture, because he seems like the kind of guy to do that. And so that's another group that is like, okay, we hate Corey. We're gonna get back at him. So she needs help with her car. He works down at the junkyard / auto repair shop. They do both. Like, in case they can't fix it, it's not that hard to get it taken care of that way. She shows up, she has a big problem with her car, but then she's like, actually, I just want to see you. And she keeps that problem with her car for the rest of the movie, which never stops her from driving, but geez, you'd think, fix something. Then, of course, with the slashed tire, turns out evil Ludwig didn't know how to change the tire, and he drove on the rim, and now they gotta go get that fixed so evil Ludwig knows where he works and all that stuff. And it's bad. But he goes to... Corey goes with Laurie to... No, Corey goes with Allison. Right. I'm getting confused here. Corey goes with Allison to Halloween party, and then at the Halloween party with all the young people happens to be the mother of the kid that he killed, who's absolutely not happy to see him, and then he gets chased out and stuff, and oh no, And then he runs into evil Ludwig again, who, makes an attempt on his life, throws him over the bridge and stuff. But then, this is the big reveal. He gets dragged into the sewers, where we find out that is where Michael Myers is. He's just kind of hanging out down there with the Ninja Turtles and hasn't really been bothering anybody, so... It's cool. I mean, the homeless guy there is like, hey, he brings people in there on occasion and such. So how come you got out and stuff? Also, I got your knife. I'm going to try to kill you now because I think I'm Michael Myers. And then he ends up stabbing him and killing another guy by accident. And it's like, snuff. Oh, well. And then he's there later. He gets to talk to Allison and he confesses to her that he killed someone, which I thought was him telling her that, hey, I killed that homeless guy. But no, it's him confessing that he killed the kid, which she already knew about. But she seems to be acting a little surprised about at this point. But oh well. There's this thing. It's kind of a descent into... we see all these sides, all these angles of people who treat Corey badly. And the cops who are now, they're working on getting him because after all, he stole Allison away from asshole cop. So he teams up with Michael, who's still just hanging out in the sewer, and he's just like, okay, I'm gonna lure the cop in here, and I'm just gonna hold him while Michael kills him. And we're gonna work together, bros, buddies, and they get that kill out of the way, and he's feeling the evil, and it's like, yes, I can do this. I can do some murder. In the meantime, Allison's not having a great time because she was working on getting stuff going on with her job at the hospital, but she was supposed to get a promotion, but oh no, her boss doctor man gave the promotion instead to the girl he was So that didn't work out quite so well for Allison, and it's completely unjust. But then Corey ends up getting to the doctor's place with Michael and killing the doctor and killing the lady the doctor was boning, and that's just kind of this revenge killing thing. Oh god! Speaking of revenge and stuff, for some reason there's this little side story with Laurie and the sheriff, and they were flirting, and it's this just kind of the scenes go on for a while, but I don't know what exactly they're trying to lead to. A little character growth for them, maybe. But it's I gotta interrupt that by remember this lady, she didn't die in Halloween Kills. She actually lived because, Michael didn't finish her off. But even though we spent that entire movie talking about how you weren't that important, actually it's entirely your fault because Michael tore his way through Haddonfield to get to you, even though he wasn't actually trying to get to you. But we're gonna say he was trying to get to you now. You lured him here, and therefore it's your fault. He killed my husband and stabbed me in the neck and muted me. It's a pretty big stretch, but we just kind of leave it there and Laurie should think about this. How being Laurie Strode really means she is the bad guy. And it's what? What? No, you can't see. I mean, the first movie, Laurie was super important. In the second, they said, actually, no. And you can't just bring back actually yes for the third. You can't just say, actually, no, actually, yes. Or, and I guess you can. Movies, they do whatever the heck they want. So then Laurie is wait a minute. this guy who I knew killed the kid, actually, I think maybe he might be a bit messed up, because I went to his house and found out that he actually had an abusive family, which has also messed him up, which makes me wonder about how he was all clean cut in the opening, if he had that messed up of a family that all abused him and held him down before having the entire town do it to him. This movie has this weird, like, non-grip. It plays fast and loose with the idea of trauma and psychological kind of issues and what have you. It just does whatever it wants. Like, as someone who has been through enough trauma myself, it's like every single aspect and angle they went with in this movie just was wrong. And I'm just like, okay. But then it's like, well, he starts going through, like, the whole town. He takes on evil Ludwig and all his friends and takes them all out. Then he goes to the radio DJ who has been spending the time on the radio talking crap about him all movie, and also personally just told him off face to face and is like, yeah, we're gonna take you out as well. He's been confiding with Allison, like, we're gonna burn down this whole town, and she's like, yeah, that sounds fun, that sounds fine. And Laurie's there like, hey, Allison, this guy's actually, I'm sorry for hooking you together, because I've decided he's out of his mind, and I would really think it's safer for you not to be together with him. And she's there like, you're crazy, Mom. You are bad, and I don't think people have mentioned enough about how bad and crazy you are. Allison is just dumb, and Corey's going around killing everybody. He went back to Michael to get the mask, and he had an easy time with it, I'd say. He just tackles Michael and grabs the mask from him and leaves. Like, got it, and then he's going around, and it never feels like Michael, partially because you know it's not Michael, and also because if you thought maybe seeing him walking around in the coveralls and the mask, it would come off like Michael. There's still the problem that in his first appearance, he's there with the mask off in his hand before putting it on. So it's very intentionally telling you, no, this is Corey. And that's the thing. It's like Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. They played with, is this Jason come back from the dead? Who is this? And at the end you find out, oh, it's not Jason. Here, there's no question. It's like, that is not Michael, that is Corey. Never mind that he's shorter and skinnier and the hands are much cleaner. Then he shows up to kill Laurie, but then Laurie shoots him twice, but then just wastes the rest of the bullets and stuff and, like, tempts him to kill her for some reason. And he stabs himself in the neck, and then Laurie's like, crap, you're not supposed to do that. And she goes to grab the knife and pull it out. And then Allison shows up right then to find her mother with the knife in front of her, with dead Corey. And she's like, oh no, this is not what it looks like. Accident, I swear. And it's just the dumbest kind of like, oh, remember that from the opening? But then Michael actually shows up again. He's like, okay, guys, I woke up. We got, 10 minutes of movie left? Okay, well, I may as well show up for some scenes. Laurie, good to see you again. Here's my mask right here. Okay. Corey, he's still alive. I mean, I appreciate working with you earlier, but next step. Okay, takes care of Corey. And then he goes off to fight Laurie, and then Laurie kicks his ass pretty definitively. It doesn't have too hard of a time, I don't think. Like, they have a back and forth, but all things considered, Laurie just beating the crap out of Michael. It seems like, man, Michael, you really should have done a little more stretching, got a few more practice kills in. I don't know. But then they're like, let's make sure. Let's absolutely make sure Michael's dead. I mean, we shot him 6 times before, that didn't work. So, yeah, he's been stabbed, cut, just throat slashed, wrist slashed, everything slashed, but still gotta make sure. So they drive him down to the junkyard, and they get to the grinder, and they just toss him in and grind him up, and it's like, okay, that's the definitive ending of Halloween. That's how it all ends. And then like, oh, but it doesn't end, evil doesn't go away, it just changes shape, in reference to Corey, who is also dead. But it's like, people wanted Michael. That's why the Halloween series is like it is because people wanted Michael. That's kind of the thing. And yeah, it is a mess of a movie. Its messaging is just back and forth, and it spends a lot of time with this relationship between the sheriff and Laurie, and not nearly enough time with the relationship with the cop and Lindsay. I know from one scene that they are an item, I think, and then I know from another scene that she didn't tell him that she broke up with him. And that's kind of how that went. And yeah, the whole thing was like the town has the evil in them, but the town is also right to hate Laurie, but the town is also wrong to hate Corey. And they're so wrong to hate Corey that they all deserve to die. But those that survived are absolutely in the right to blame Laurie for Michael's actions. And what is the overarching plot for it? What are they trying to say? As far as I'm figuring they had a lot they wanted to say, and they didn't care if it contradicted if the lessons started contradicting each other. It's like, okay, screw it. Just whatever, here we go. It's Halloween Ends. We can do whatever we want. Because it's in 2028, it's not really going to matter anyway. But, so I really need to get this on 4K Blu-ray and dig into it later. But in the meantime, thank you all for watching. I have been Decker Shadow. And remember, trilogies work best when they complement each other, not keep throwing food at each other in the cafeteria.